the people who are actually saying they love your art, your friends and family, first of all, they might just be the ones getting in your way and holding you from improving and finding your voice in art. And also all that human being, social being thing, and artists need to belong to some kind of larger art community. I'm not sure about that one either. I actually had to leave Florence. I know, because of some bureaucracy issues. And yeah, for an artist like myself, it's like leaving, I don't know, leaving the Disneyland where all this excitement and beauty. You can go to a simple church and you will feel that you're surrounded by art. You can stare at this simple painting for the whole day. And then you can go to your friends and you can talk about this painting and they will actually understand what you mean. And they will actually talk back to you about this painting, and because they speak the same artistic language. It's such a beautiful thing. And over morning coffee or cappuccino with a brioche, brioche is Florentine for croissant, by the way, you can have a conversation about Pontormo and Bronzino and Caravaggio and all others, and yeah, people will actually understand that these are real people with real names. These are not types of pasta or pizza, yeah. This is not a normal behavior, I know, but that's how we are. That's what I enjoy. All I'm saying, I was a part of this beautiful community and where you felt at home and where you felt comfortable. And then I came to Amsterdam where, well, my first thought when I came here, where's all the art? There's no art. That's how it felt for me, because I would compare it to Amsterdam, to Florence. And you would walk the streets and people would not know that you're an artist. They don't know your style, your technique. They don't even know who Bronzino is or who Pontormo is. I was just a regular guy. And actually, I was working in a restaurant. I had to, not because of the money, but also, to make some connections and to socialize with people, because I felt so, I don't know, lonely, maybe. And yeah, I was just serving scrambled eggs at breakfast buffet in one of the 5-star hotels here in Amsterdam. And people would come to get breakfast, get scrambled eggs from me. And it was all about the eggs, not about the art at all. And yeah, it was fine. That's a different kind of business. And for the whole first year, I think I was, doing something in my little studio, and I was thinking, man, well, I was not thinking, why am I here? Because I knew why I'm here. I was thinking, what the heck am I doing? And this feeling when you walk the streets in the new city where nobody knows you, I was catching myself thinking, nobody actually knows me here. 0 people know who I am, and I can actually be whatever I want. That's a good thing, right? But it also can be a dangerous thing. When I now think about my time in my little studio during that first year, I could finally, nobody's watching, I could finally create something what I feel comfortable with. I feel I can be myself in my studio. But that's one side of the coin. And the other side of the coin is that when nobody's watching and nobody cares, about what you do, then does it even matter what you're doing? It is a dangerous question, I know. And I think I've learned to handle it in a good way. I'm not saying it's a correct way, the way I handled this loneliness. And what I understood is that loneliness, isolation, and solitude are 3 different things. They're totally different. Well, they have to do something with each other, but they're different, because solitude is something where you decide to be alone, and you shut the doors in your studio and you create all by yourself. And loneliness is when you want to belong to something, but you can't. And isolation is probably when you're rejected. To me, it's a very serious question, actually. I'm laughing on camera, but you know what? Yeah, and this is actually what I wanted to talk to you about this solitude, isolation, and loneliness, and the artistic community. So when I came from Florence to Amsterdam, I didn't feel just lonely. I felt really invisible, and I knew I had to do something about it. So first thing I did, I went working in this 5-star hotel as a breakfast waiter, serving scrambled eggs. It was interesting, and people didn't care about art. I didn't care about scrambled eggs, but it was just a different kind of business, as I said. And my other attempts were participating at local art markets. Yeah, because I thought I was so reasonable, and I thought people would go to art markets, to buy art and to enjoy art. But those local art markets, they were just really disaster to my soul. True. If you ever participated in one of the local art markets, then you know how it feels. People would go by and they would like eat that street food and what's that? You know, no, I'm not mocking anyone. That's just my observation, and it's true. And I'm like, no, just go away. Don't touch anything because I had my original artworks, not prints, not stickers. You know, and they would stand, they would watch, and they would, you know, okay, never mind, and they would go away and they would buy some kind of like a handmade candle or a sweater, and which is also nice. But yeah, actually I can give you a tip. When you go to a local art market to sell your art, do not bring original pieces. Bring some printouts or stickers, posters, whatever. Do not care about what you're selling because, you know, if people walk by and they don't care, it's fine because you don't care. If people buy something and you don't care about it, that's fine. You don't care, but money is good. So do not care about what you're selling at local art market. That's my advice. You know, and as people, as artists as well, we're very stable and emotionally balanced creatures, obviously, because one second they're telling us, I love your work and, you know, your brushstrokes are beautiful, and you're thinking, oh, I'm a genius. And the other second they're not saying nothing, they're just ignoring your work, and you're like, okay, I'm a fraud. Nobody wants it. You know, I don't matter. That's how we are. That's how we think. Let's be honest about it. And but you know what? The thing about this, if you remove yourself from that constant feedback and critique or praise, then you start facing something very, very uncomfortable, even more uncomfortable than critique and this ignorance. You start facing yourself, your canvas, your art. You start facing you. And that's it. Nobody else is around. And that's how I felt when I moved from Florence to Amsterdam, and there was literally nobody to praise me or to critique me. That was the first time I felt that physically felt solitude. And it might sound poetic or pathetic, but it does actually exist. So, so I started painting not for other artists, not for anybody else, but I started painting for myself. And it is a beautiful feeling, yes. Because, you know, sometimes when you create something, when you know, paint or draw, you still think about other people. I don't know if I can explain it, but when somebody says your color choice is beautiful, then in the next painting you will try to repeat that color choice because those words, they're here. And you are trying to please that person. Even though that person is gone, you won't see that person anymore in your life, but, you know, those words, they're here. And if somebody says, oh, this is such a beautiful shadow and the transition is just fantastic, you will try, unconsciously, you will try to repeat that transition and that shadow on your paper to please that person who said it. And that's why I'm saying that people who praise your art and who say, oh, they love your art so much, it's so beautiful, they might be the ones who are getting in your way of, you know, of finding yourself in art. Yes, and we do it unconsciously because we do absorb everything people say about our art. And you know what's the strange thing is, you start performing for people who are not even in the room, for people who won't even see your art anymore, but you're still working for them. You're painting for them to impress them. It's also all here. But when you are removed from that bubble of praise and from that familiar feedback, you start doing something totally new to you, because now, you know, there is nobody to impress. But you know, what I've noticed is my work did not improve, actually. You know, I did not develop new technique or I did not discover new Baroque shadow theory. No. But I just started creating something what I want to create. And please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying go dump your family or your friends. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that community is beautiful and good, and we all need friends who will understand us and who will, you know, who will speak the same language as we do. But to bring something to the community, you have to have something. And you have to have your voice. And when you're constantly surrounded by other artists, there is a danger that you start listening to them more than you listen to yourself. And you start repeating their words, not your words. And eventually you ask yourself, what do I actually believe? And why do I believe it? Do I believe it because others believe it? Or is it really me? The silence helps a lot. When you're lonely, when you feel lonely, I'm not saying loneliness. I'm not saying loneliness is good. No, it's not. It sucks, really. I don't like it. When you're lonely, you're silent, and that silence, while you're lonely, that silence is actually very helpful, because when there's silence around you, you start hearing your own voice. That's a good thing. And we're working in our studios and nobody sees what we're doing, and we're questioning everything, of course. And do I matter? Does my art matter or not? It's kind of a good thing, because this is the moment when there is this distance between you, your art, and other people's expectations, actually. What I notice is why do we make art? We make it to sell most of the time, right? We make it to make money. We make it to exhibit, to impress others. And while we're making art that we want to sell, we kind of trying to please the buyer. So we're making that art for the specific buyer. And you see, that's exactly where we're losing our personality. And we want to find our people, our niche, our audience. These are all good things. These are all important things. But just think about it. What if everyone left? When all this is gone, it can happen very suddenly. It happened to me, and when everything is gone, when all people they're not around you anymore, and it's very uncomfortable. It's not a pleasant thing. I didn't want to come to Amsterdam to be lonely, to be in solitude. I wanted everything differently. I did not come to Amsterdam to become invisible, but this invisibility helped me to see myself much better. And now I'm in a situation where I have to learn lessons, and I have to deal with this loneliness and everything. And I think that the main lesson that I learned from this loneliness in Amsterdam and from this solitude, from this silence, is I stopped asking, will they like it? Will people like my art? And I started asking, do I like it? And this question, do I like it? This question is uncomfortable. And to me, this process, this way to get to the point where I finally started asking, do I like it? This way was also very uncomfortable. But I think it's an important one. And I think it's the more interesting one. Now you sit there and watch this video and you're kind of thinking, okay, now it's the perfect moment for Dimitri to say, everything's going to be all right. I'm not going to say it. I don't know if it's going to be all right. I don't know if it's going to be all right for me or for you. I don't know if people will like what we do, but welcome to the art world. Welcome to being an artist. You will never be sure if people will like it or not. And let me ask you this. If nobody likes what you're doing, will you still make it? That's a good one, isn't it? And the last thing I want to say before I forget, the solitude is not the enemy of the community, because the solitude is exactly the time and the place where you start learning about yourself, who you are, and what are you bringing to this community. My name is Dimitri Ross. I'm a figurative artist in Amsterdam, and I hope to see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.